Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kaelaris and today I'm going to be bringing you a best of 3 series between RAZERiNSo, going to be playing for Razer Gaming here, and aTnSocke, and I believe this game was played in the EPS. I really haven't cast that many PvPs recently, so I'm going to be bringing you one today. Hopefully this will bring us a little bit of variety. A lot of people do think that this matchup is quite stagnant, but I personally feel there are a lot of small nuances that do go on in this game, matchup even, that can play huge roles in this matchup in general. So, for all those who do know, I'm looking very much forward to the new patch changes. Immortals having range 6 instead of 5, that could be very interesting indeed. Maybe we'll go through on the patch changes, I'm not quite sure. It really seemed to me like a lot of people didn't have too much of a problem with Immortals in general, but, you know, maybe we'll see that kind of go through. And if you're watching this VOD at a very late stage, then this will have happened a long time ago, so who cares? But also the Warp Prism change looks very enticing as well. Anyway, regardless, back to this game, we do have aTnSocke, as I said, one of the most fantastic German players you have ever seen, and just placing so highly at many events, but never really bringing back the crucial kind of wins that he deserves in essence. So, you know, we'll have to see what he can pull out here. He has been very strong in the German EPS in general, so hopefully he'll show us some good games. Meanwhile, in the base of RAZERiNSo, we do have a very similar build coming out for him. Just the gateway and the very standard assimilator timing. Both players' builds lining up very evenly at this point. Although RAZERiNSo just getting that pylon a little bit later than Socke, but it doesn't really matter too much at this point, as Insolence did go for a very quick scout. Now let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is ESL Metalopolis even, so you cannot spawn in those close positions. It's not like MLG Metalopolis where you do have that supply depot on the low ground in order to be able to block off kind of some proxy pylons that do come along sometimes, but we'll have to see what happens. So it looks like Socke is actually going for a very quick second gas here, and has he shown that to Insolence? He has indeed, but then again, so has Insolence. Insolence has also gone for that very quick second gas, and at this point Socke hasn't scouted him at all, so that's very interesting at this point. Socke kind of going for that on a blind whim in essence, but nowadays it is kind of easier to be able to hold off any kind of 4-gate shenanigans that does come along. Even with the second gas, you can do it with some very nice kind of 2-gate robo builds, 3-gate builds, depending on, you know, your options and choices. Do you go for sentries? Do you go for those Immortals? Personally, I love to go for the Immortals. Leaves you a bit further ahead in tech and things like that. But, you know, some people do not like that. Some people feel that is kind of an unsafe way of approaching it. But we'll have to see if either player goes for that in this game. So it looks like Insolence is just getting out that first Stalker and Zealot, maybe looking to fake a 4-gate at this point. He's not moving out with the Zealot just yet, so I'm unaware that he will be faking that. Normally if it was a 4-gate, you'd be moving out with both the Stalker and the Zealot, but actually no, just going to be pulling back, making sure nothing drastic is going on around his base here. Socke going to be putting a pylon in the mist here. This could be used to hide a plethora of things, but at the same time we do see a robo facility going down for RAZERiNSo, so he's going to be in a good position. And ooh, I really like this gateway positioning here. Basically this is saying to his opponent, like, if he goes for any kind of blink or anything like that, he's restricting the surface area that blink will allow kind of to get up this here. You really can't blink any stalkers up into these areas, and it really kind of limits how many stalkers can blink up. And at the same time, speak of the devil, we do have Socke going for Twilight Council, so maybe he will be going for Blink for this. He is saving up a little bit of gas, so maybe he could go from DTs from here, but considering there is a robo facility here for Insolence, that would be a very bad idea indeed. Socke doesn't see this robo facility right now, so he doesn't know any observers are on the way, but indeed we do have Blink on the way anyway, so disregard any of that DT shenanigans we were on about just before, and it looks like Insolence is going to be setting up some proxy pylons to do a little bit of a warp in later on. So at this point, Insolence playing standard, in my opinion. I love this build, the 3-gate Robo. Just going for those Immortals now. Does have the option to go for those the Colossus as well. But ultimately, you know, what he really wants to see, he wants to see in the base of Socke. He wants to know what is going on. He will see a lot of Stalkers here with this Observer. So he's going to guess that Blink is on the way, and he's going to be correct. And if he builds more Immortals at this point now, he's going to be in a very, very good position. So we did see Socke then just send up a probe into the base of Insolence, and he did see that first Immortal, which is probably going to send Socke home, but at the same time it doesn't look like it. Socke's going to look to put on some pressure here, but at the same time, bear in mind we do have these pylons going up, so we could see a bit of a counter-attack from Insolence if he so wishes, but I really don't think blinking up here is going to do anything. Again, these gateways are in a fine position to be able to cover the surface area. Nice force field there, going to be denying any kind of high ground vision at all for Socke at this point, and we do have a few Zealots going to be warping in here up at the top, so that counter-attack in essence could do a lot of damage. That Immortal will indeed hold its own, especially since some force fields are here as well, and Socke wisely going to be warping in a few Zealots up at the top. One Stalker is under fire right now, and really needs to kite this properly in order to be able to do well. Nice blocking there with that lone Zealot in the mineral line, trying to keep as many Zealots away as possible at this point, trying to keep all his probes as intact as possible. One Zealot does fall, a second could fall, one probe has already fallen though, and it looks like Socke is going to be able to clean that up pretty darn well. Really nice play there from Socke. He is slightly behind in supply, but ultimately, you know, he's going to be in a fine spot. So now Socke is sort of playing the containment game, and ultimately Insolence really wants his own blink out in order to be able to contend with the blink micro of Socke, and it can get really dicey sometimes in PvP if you do not have blink against someone going blink stalkers. Now obviously in the upcoming patch that may change with the range of 5 to 6 for Immortals, or indeed you can go for that Immortal route, but we do have Socke here going for his own robotics facility as well. Wants that Observer out in order to be able to just keep an eye on anything that is going on, and looks like he's going to be forced back now, as this force is getting pretty scary here for Insolence, although behind this Socke is going to be expanding, and what Socke really wants to do now is keep his opponent on his toes, keep him moving around the map, making sure that he can't see the expansion. And has he scouted that yet? No, he has not seen this expansion here yet. So, you know, he's just going to want him to dance around the middle of the map for as long as possible, get those Stalker numbers high enough, and one Immortal is really not going to pose that much of a threat at this point. Guardian Shield does go up for both players though, and oh my god, that's going to be soaking quite a lot of damage for Insolence. That Immortal is going to be ripping through those Stalkers to the right and blinking all those units back wisely, in my opinion. That Immortal was doing a significant amount of damage to those Stalkers on the flank. And, you know, Insolence is in a pretty good position army-wise, but if he allows this base to get up for Socke and allows it to become, you know, economically stable, Insolence is going to be in a very, very bad spot here. So he's going to be warping in more units and looking to what looks like a push, but Insolence at this point is going very high on minerals. I'm really interested to know what Insolence is doing. Normally when I cast Insolence's games, he's kind of really keeping on top of his macro, and you really see kind of, you know, I would like to see more Immortals out. He could have had at least 3 Immortals out by now, which would have absolutely chewed up these Stalkers at this point, but we just don't see it right now. So wisely going to be using this Observer to pick off a few pylons up on the top, going to be throwing his own down in order to try and push in here, but these Stalker numbers right now for Socke are getting very scary, and had Insolence actually kept on top of his macro, I'm pretty sure he could threaten here, especially if he had at least 2 more Immortals. But at this point, Socke's army is looking pretty scary in itself, and actually going to be blinking there, nicely taking out that Observer, denying high ground vision at this point, and actually killing off a lone Zealot there. A bit of a sloppy play there by Socke, but ultimately a lot of Stalkers now here for Insolence. He has his own blink, but the blink is currently on cooldown. Can't blink a few of those wounded ones back, but now Socke has a superior concave, could focus down that Immortal, that could go down, and indeed it does. But now all it's left with is Blink Stalkers versus Blink Stalkers, and Socke, as I said before, had the superior concave, blinking in a little bit aggressively there. I really don't like aggressive blinking, as it can be very, very dodgy indeed. But now Socke looks to have stabilized and has an expansion behind this, is slightly up on supply. That being said, Insolence did kind of just peek it out now and is very, very close indeed. But Socke's blink is very, very strong. His are less wounded than the blink stalkers of Insolence, and now once again Insolence has the lesser concave here. Socke is going to be able to... Oh, an offensive blink in there by Inso. And that is going to really spell the doom for Insolence. Really shouldn't offensive blink in. Now Socke has a lot of defensive blinking in order to be able to deal with this. And Insolence looks on the ropes here. I really don't know what he can do at this point. Neither player has anything in production, and Insolence GG's. So that is going to be it for Game 1, ladies and gentlemen, of this PvP in the EPS. Join me for Game 2, where we'll see if Socke can take the best of 3, or if Insolence can tie it up.